My name is Winter Collins, and the day I came home to my own condo and got told to move out was the day I stopped playing the good daughter. I had been on a work trip, proud because this place was paid for with my overtime and side jobs. I opened the door expecting quiet. Instead, I walked into ring lights, camera stands, and the sound of my brother shouting to an audience that this was his penthouse in downtown Austin. My couch, my kitchen, my view, all branded as his. My mom was there like she owned the deed, smiling at the screen. Before I could even finish saying, "What are you doing in my condo?" she hit me with it. "You have been away? The place was just sitting here. Family has rights. Your brother needs a quiet space. You can grab your things and find somewhere else for a while." When I said no, she did not even blink. Selfish Winter. My brother laughed into his microphone and told his chat his little sister was being dramatic about his penthouse. I did not scream. I did not cry. I walked straight to my bedroom, saw my desk shoved into a corner to make room for his setup, and pulled out the one thing they had not touched, my hidden security drive. I smiled, pulled out my phone, and made one call. 10 minutes later, there was a hard knock at the door and a calm voice on the other side saying, "Austin Police Department, Mom. We need to talk about who actually lives here. If you want to know what happened after that knock and how that one call flipped my whole family upside down, stay with me till the end." When the cops stepped in, my brother was still alive. His chat went nuts the second two uniforms walked through the frame. He tried to play it off, laughing like it was a prank. But one officer asked him to mute the stream and the other turned to me. "Mom, do you live here?" I handed over my ID and condo registration before my mom could open her mouth. The officer glanced at the paperwork, then at me, then at Logan. "So you are Winter Collins, the owner, and you did not give permission for all of this." My mom jumped in then. "Officer, this is a family thing. My son is just staying here," she said, all polite. "We are just helping each other. No big deal." The officer looked around at the ring lights, the stacks of merch, the whiteboard with content goals plastered across my wall. He told them flat out this looked like a business setup in a residential condo, and that if I, the owner, had a problem, they needed to fix it. He said it was mostly a civil issue, but he logged the complaint and warned them that any more noise or trouble and building management could escalate. After they left, my mom turned on me in the hallway. "Happy now, Winter. You embarrassed your own family in front of the police." I just said, "I am changing the locks. You have until tonight to get out." Then I did exactly that. I had the smart lock company on speed dial, and within hours, Logan's access code was dead, and my phone was the only one that could open the door. That night, I got the group text. "Family meeting at your condo tomorrow, no excuses." The next day, they showed up like it was some intervention. My mom, Deb, marched in first with a binder like she was about to pitch me a real estate deal. My dad, Gary, followed, hands in his pockets, doing that fake calm thing he does when he wants to manipulate a situation. Logan came last, no camera this time, but still dressed like he was about to film a sponsorship. My mom spread some printouts on the kitchen island. Airbnb listings, temporary rentals, ideas for me. "So here is what we think makes the most sense," she said, like it was already decided. "You are traveling so much for work, Winter. You do not really need to be in the city all the time. There is a cute little furnished place in Round Rock you could rent for 6 months. Cheaper, quieter. Logan can keep using the condo downtown for his content. It is good exposure for the family." My dad nodded. "This streaming thing is real money now. He is about to sign with a travel brand. If he looks stable, successful, it helps everyone. You can come back on weekends. It is just for a while." I stared at them. "You are seriously asking me to move out of my own home so your golden boy can look rich on the internet?" Logan rolled his eyes. "It is not that deep, Winter." The condo was sitting empty. I turned it into something valuable. Family has rights, remember? When I did not answer, he smirked. Chat loved it, by the way. Penthouse content is killing. I pulled out my phone and opened his latest video. He had done a tour of my place, calling it my penthouse in downtown Austin, my skyline view, my office, my bar. He never mentioned my name. He told people he had bought the place with ad money. My stomach turned. I zoomed in on one frame and showed it to them. See this envelope on the counter? That is my bank statement. My mom brushed it off. Details. We are building something bigger here. You always said you wanted us to be okay. This is how. I laid out photos I had taken that morning. Scratches in the hardwood from his equipment, coffee stains on my leather couch, adhesive marks on the wall where he had ripped off panels to hang a giant neon logo. I pulled out an email on my phone from a bank I did not even use. Welcome to your new business checking account, Winter Collins. Only the account number was not one I recognized. Logan's face flickered for half a second. I kept going. I know you used my full legal name and this address to open accounts, to sign up for donation platforms, maybe more. He tried to laugh. It is just paperwork. You know how these platforms are. I just needed something verified. You hardly even live here. I did not trust myself to speak anymore, so I wrapped it up. You have 24 hours to get every piece of your gear out of my condo. No more filming here. No more using my name or my address. After that, I am done talking. He scoffed and stormed out, my parents trailing behind him, still muttering about me ruining everything. I did not chase them. Instead, I texted my coworker and friend, Nina. You used to watch my brother's channel, right? Come to the coffee shop. I need you to see something. An hour later, we were sitting in a corner booth with my laptop between us. I pulled up old VODs, the penthouse tour, the night parties, the casual shots where he flashed my credit card like it was his. Nina watched as he ordered takeout, my name half visible on the receipt, as his chat spammed rich life and goals. Her face fell. I thought he was grinding and traveling and hustling, she said quietly. I did not know he was just draining you. I felt something inside me click into place. That is when I started saving timestamps, screenshots, anything that showed where my money and my name had gone. Was trust dying because of all these little cuts over years, or because of this one massive betrayal laid out on a screen in front of me? I was not sure yet. But I knew one thing. My family still believed I would cave like always. They had no idea I had just started building a case. The next morning, I met Nina again at my place with 2 coffees and a shared sense that this was bigger than family drama. We hooked my laptop up to the TV and opened every security clip, every VOD, every little piece of footage I had. At first, it was just annoying things. Logan and his friends screaming at 2 a.m., music blasting, them dancing on my couch with pizza boxes everywhere. Then it got darker. Clips of him flipping through my mail on camera like it was a prop. A delivery guy handing over packages addressed to Winter Collins while Logan joked, "When you are a creator, boxes never stop coming." There was a night where he poured shots on my kitchen island, shouting to chat, "This is what a real penthouse party looks like," while a neighbor knocked on the door complaining about the noise. He told chat the neighbors were jealous. Another clip showed my mom walking friends around the condo in the middle of the day, talking about it like a shared family asset. "This is our downtown place," she told them, gesturing to my view. "Logan uses it for filming, but it is basically our investment property." Nina reached for the remote and paused on a frame where my open laptop sat in the background, my employer's logo clearly visible on the screen. "If one of your clients saw this," she said quietly, "they would think you were the reckless one." My phone buzzed just then. "Unknown number." I answered on speaker. "Hi, is this Ms. Collins? This is Monica Hernandez with Building Management. We need to speak about your unit." My stomach sank. Yes, this is Winter. I am at the unit now. She told me to come down to the office. When we got there, Monica had a folder on her desk thicker than my patience. She slid it across to me. Noise complaints from your floor and the one below. Reports of filming in the hallway. A note about multiple strangers with cameras buzzing other units by mistake. Photos from the overnight security guard showing a ring light setup visible from the hallway. She tapped a page near the back. And this is the police report from the call the other day. It lists you as the owner and complainant. Unlike my family, Monica did not talk to me like a child. She talked to me like a responsible adult with a problem. I want to be very clear, she said. Our bylaws do not allow commercial operations like a content studio out of a residential unit without prior approval. If this continues, the HOA can fine you heavily, and in extreme cases they can pursue legal action. It all lands on you, not your guests. Nina watched my face as I flipped through the complaints. Words like excessive noise, suspected commercial filming, unauthorized guests. Safety concern jumped out at me like sirens. I felt heat climb up my neck. So either I stop this, or I pay for it forever. Monica nodded. I know it is complicated when family is involved, but I need you to understand the board only sees your name. I signed a form acknowledging I had been warned and promised there would be no more filming or parties. The second we stepped out, I called my mom on speaker. You knew there were complaints, I said. Security talked to you. Why did you not tell me? She sighed dramatically. Winter. It was just a few knocks on the door. People are sensitive. We handled it. You are blowing this out of proportion. I stared at the HOA letter in my hand. They sent police. The building manager has a file on me. This is not a small misunderstanding. My dad chimed in from the background. Look, kiddo, this can all be fixed. Once your brother's deal goes through, we can help you with fees if there are any. Don't nuke the golden goose over some paperwork. That line hit me harder than all the insults. I hung up mid-sentence. Nina raised an eyebrow. They really think you are the one who has to bend. I exhaled a shaky laugh that did not feel like a laugh at all. They always have. Not this time. Back upstairs, we went back to work. I made a spreadsheet because that is what a cybersecurity engineer does when her life turns into a breach. Dates, times, dollar amounts. Uber Eats charges that were mine on paper but not in reality. Streaming donations hitting accounts opened under my name. Brand emails referencing the condo as his asset. Clips where he lied about ownership. Every incident that could show a pattern, not just a bad week. Nina watched me type. You know this is starting to look like more than just a family argument, right? She said. This is fraud, identity theft. You cannot talk them out of this. You need someone who speaks lawsuit. I looked at the pile of evidence on my screen and the folder from Monica on the table. For once, I did not feel crazy or overdramatic. I felt like the only sane person in a family that had decided my life was theirs to monetize. I opened my browser and typed in 3 words I never imagined I would need. Identity theft attorney, Austin. As the search results loaded, I felt something in me settle. I was done begging my family to respect me. I was about to let the law explain it for me. The first lawyer I called did not pick up. The second had an assistant who sounded bored. The third, a guy named Daniel Reed, who specialized in civil litigation and identity theft, answered himself. I gave him the 2-minute version on the phone, expecting him to brush me off. Instead, he said, "Bring every document and video you have. Today, if you can." His office was in a glass building not far from my own. I sat across from him with my laptop open, the HOA folder on the table, a stack of printed bank emails fanned out between us. He watched the clips in silence, rewinding when Logan flashed my mail, pausing when he claimed on camera that he had bought the condo with his sponsor money. When we got to the part where the bank welcomed me to a business account I had never opened, Daniel leaned back in his chair. Winter, he said slowly, this is not just your brother crashing on your couch too long. This is unauthorized occupancy, misuse of your property, and misuse of your identity for financial gain. That is the polite way to say fraud. My stomach nodded, even though I already knew it in my bones. What do I do? I asked. He picked up a pen. First, we document everything properly. He started a list as he spoke. Civil side, we file a complaint for damages to the condo and wrongful use of your home as a commercial set. We send a cease and desist letter demanding he stop using your name, your address, your image, and your property in his content. We include your parents because they clearly facilitated this. On the criminal side, we alert the bank and platforms that the accounts were opened under false pretenses, and we send a letter to any brand he has lied to using your condo as his asset. I swallowed. That sounds nuclear. Daniel met my eyes. Your family lit the fuse when they decided your life was a prop. You are just choosing not to stand in the blast zone. He drafted the letter while I watched, his language precise and cold. By the time I left his office, Logan and my parents each had an email and a physical copy on the way, laying out in black and white what they had done and what would happen if they did not stop. There was one more thing, Daniel said as I was about to walk out. Given the police were already called and given the level of hostility in some of these clips, I am going to petition the court for a temporary protective order. It will say he has to stay away from you and your condo. It is both a shield and a very loud message that you are done being their doormat. 2 days later, I found out what that looked like in real life. I was working from home when there was another firm knock on my door. I looked through the peephole and saw a sheriff's deputy standing there with a clipboard. My heart pounded, but I opened it. Ms. Winter Collins? He asked. Yes. He handed me a packet and explained in calm, measured tones that the court had granted a temporary order. Logan was prohibited from coming within a certain distance of my unit and from entering the building at all. The deputy also had a copy for him. Almost on cue, the elevator dinged down the hall. My mom's voice floated toward us, sharp and offended. You cannot be serious, she was saying to someone. You are treating him like a criminal. Logan rounded the corner, saw the deputy, saw the papers, and his face drained. The deputy turned to him. Are you Logan Collins? He nodded. The deputy explained the order, the distance restriction, the consequences if he violated it. My mom exploded. Winter, how could you do this? You called the police and now you drag the courts into it. Why are you trying to destroy your own brother's career? I held the packet to my chest like a shield. No, I said. You destroyed your own careers when you decided my bank accounts and my deed were your brand strategy. I am just done cleaning up after you. My dad tried his calm voice again. Maybe we can settle this as a family. No need for all this drama. Tell your lawyer to back off. We will move Logan out when his current content calendar is done. You have already put it online, I said. The tours, the address, the lies. And you did not flinch when the HOA and cops were on my back. You only care now that someone is finally on yours. Before they left, my mom tried one last angle. If brands hear about this, they will pull out. You are sabotaging him. I almost laughed. Daniel had already mailed letters to the main travel company Logan bragged about. He had laid out that Logan used a condo he did not own in his pitch deck, that he opened accounts under a name that was not his. Was it sabotage to tell the truth after someone built a career on your stolen foundation? I watched them walk away down the hall, clutching the court papers like they were the insult, not the consequence. For the first time in weeks, I did not feel cornered. I felt like the floor had shifted back under my feet, even if the people on it were still angry. People say, justice is slow, I thought as I closed my door. But when you have proof, it does not have to be silent. My family had ignored every boundary I tried to set quietly. Now they were going to learn what it felt like to run into one made of law. The hearing was technically called mediation, but nothing about it felt soft. I walked into the downtown courthouse with Daniel at my side, clutching a folder of printouts that basically documented the slow theft of my life. Logan was already there with some bargain attorney who looked like he had been hired yesterday. My parents sat behind him, my mom's arms folded tight, my dad staring at his phone like he wished he could swipe left on the whole situation. We sat at a long table, the mediator at the head, a court reporter typing quietly in the corner. Daniel started by laying out the basics. I own the condo outright. I never gave permission for it to be used as a studio or a business address. My brother obtained financial products and business accounts using my name and address. He used my property as collateral in pitches, and he misrepresented ownership in multiple public videos. Then he hit play on a few key clips. Logan striding through my living room telling viewers welcome to my penthouse in downtown Austin. Logan opening mail with my full name on it and tossing it aside like junk. Logan holding up my credit card, laughing about how the bank does not know what to do with all this creator money. The mediator's eyebrows inched up a little higher with each video. When it was their turn, Logan's lawyer tried hard to spin. "This is a misunderstanding within a family," he said. My client believed, based on conversations with his parents, that the property was a shared family investment. He used some imprecise language online, but there was no malicious intent. Logan chimed in, sounding more sulky than sorry. "It is just content. People exaggerate. Everyone in this space does." The mediator looked at me. "Ms. Collins, how has this impacted you?" I swallowed. "Financially," I said, "I am looking at thousands of dollars in damage to my unit, plus potential HOA fines, plus the risk that my employer or clients see these videos and think I am the one hosting wild parties and filming brand deals out of my condo. Legally, my name is now tied to accounts I did not open. Emotionally, I sleep in a place that strangers online think belongs to someone else. My own family treated my home like a set, and my bank account like a donation link. I am the only one on the paperwork, but somehow I am the last person they considered." Daniel slid a document across the table. "This is a preliminary accounting of the damages," he said. "Cost to refinish the floors, professional cleaning, repainting, replacement for items beyond repair, estimated attorney fees. We are seeking full reimbursement." Additionally, he turned to Logan's side. "Your client will agree in writing to cease using any image, video, or description of Ms. Collins's property, name, or identity in his content or business paperwork. And he will cooperate in correcting any false filings with banks and brands." Logan scoffed. "I do not have that kind of money. You are trying to ruin me." Daniel did not blink. "You ruined yourself when you built a business on something you did not own. This is just the bill." As if on cue, Logan's phone buzzed on the table. He glanced down and his face went pale. My mom whispered, "What is it?" His lawyer asked for a short break. When they came back, the lawyer spoke in a lower, tighter voice. "It seems one of the primary brands Mr. Collins was negotiating with has terminated discussions. They received a letter from counsel and have concerns about misrepresentation." I kept my face neutral, but inside something unclenched. That letter was from Daniel. There was also another email, apparently. A second brand that had already paid a deposit was demanding their money back, citing a morality clause and the police involvement at the condo. The mediator cleared his throat. "Given these developments, it may be in everyone's best interest to reach a structured agreement quickly." In the end, the terms were simple on paper, but heavy as stone. Logan had to vacate any claim to my condo, on camera and off. He had to pay for the damages in installments, plus a portion of my legal fees. He had to sign documents admitting he had opened accounts using my name without consent. The mediator also noted that the case file would be sent to the district attorney's office to decide if criminal charges were appropriate for the identity theft portion. My parents were listed in the civil agreement as parties who had benefited from the misuse of my property and could be pursued for part of the damages if Logan defaulted. When the mediator asked if I agreed, I thought about being a kid paying for my own school supplies while my parents threw parties. I thought about buying my first used car with savings while they co-signed a nicer one for Logan. I thought about walking into my own home and being told to move out. I signed. My mom grabbed my arm in the hallway afterward. "Winter, you cannot really mean to make him pay all of that," she hissed. "He will be ruined." I gently pulled away. "He is not being ruined," I said. "He is being required to pay for what he broke and what he stole. There is a difference." My dad tried the soft approach. "We might have to sell the house to help cover some of this." "Is that what you want to hurt us too?" I looked at them. Really looked. For once, I did not fold. I did not offer to fix it. I just said, "What I want is to not be the only one paying for everyone else's choices anymore." A week later, Nina sent me a link. Logan's follower count was dropping fast. Comment sections filled up with people asking why the penthouse content disappeared and why he had been streaming from a bare room with a mattress on the floor. Word travels in creator circles. Brands are skittish. Once fraud and police reports enter the chat, collaborations dry up. I watched his latest video in silence. No neon sign, no skyline, just a guy in a cramped space saying he was taking a break to figure things out. For the first time since this began, I let myself feel something close to satisfaction. Imagine watching the same people who called you selfish for protecting your own home finally face a fraction of the consequences they tried to dump on you. Would you feel guilty, or would you, just for a moment, feel like justice actually existed? The day Logan handed me the first check felt less like a victory and more like a weird, quiet funeral for the version of my family I used to pretend we were. It happened in Daniel's office, not in a house or a restaurant or a cozy living room like some movie about reconciliation. Just fluorescent lights, a conference table, and a stack of legal pads. Daniel sat at the head, flipping through paperwork. A probation officer was there too, leaning against the wall with a tablet. Logan walked in last. No flashy clothes, no camera bag, no neon sneakers. Just a wrinkled button-down and eyes that looked like he had not slept in a while. He sat across from me, fingers curled around a cashier's check so tight his knuckles were white. The probation officer spoke first, going through the terms like he had done this 100 times with other people. Logan had taken a plea deal on the identity theft charges. He avoided jail, but he was on probation for the next 2 years. He was required to pay restitution to me in scheduled amounts. He had to perform community service. He could not open any new financial accounts without approval. He could not use anyone else's name, address, or property in his business or content, not even with so-called verbal permission. Any slip, and the deal was off. Logan slid the check across the table without looking up. "This is the first payment," he muttered. "Don't spend it all in one place." The old me would have snapped back, would have tried to win the last word. Instead, I just picked it up, checked the amount, and handed it to Daniel. He copied the details, marked it as received, and filed it away like it was any other line item in any other case. Eventually, Logan lifted his eyes to mine. "Winter," he said, and for once there was no performance in his voice, no audience to impress. "I know you think I am a monster. I did not set out to steal from you. I just wanted to look successful so bad that I stopped caring what I was standing on. I thought you would be fine. You are always fine. The thing is, that was exactly the problem. I had been the one who was fine for so long that they truly believed I was a resource, not a person." I could see the weight of it starting to land on him now that sponsors were gone and followers had moved on. I am living in a shared place out past the city limits, he went on. No lease in my name yet. Nobody really wants to rent to the guy with a fresh fraud case on his record. I am working at an electronics store, selling cameras I used to unbox for fun on stream. Customers have no idea who I am. Maybe that is better. He swallowed hard. I know this does not make up for anything, but I am sorry. I am sorry I used your name. I am sorry I treated your condo like a set. I am sorry I laughed when Mom told you to move out. I did not say it was okay. I did not tell him I forgave him. I just said, I believe you are sorry. That is not the same thing as trusting you. He nodded, like he had expected that. The probation officer cleared his throat and went over the last bullet points. Any contact between us had to stay civil. No showing up at my home or job. No online posts hinting that I wronged him. When they left, I watched from the window as Logan climbed into the passenger seat of a dented car instead of his old sponsored SUV. He looked smaller somehow, not just physically, but like the idea of him I had carried around my whole life had finally shrunk down to human size. Later, my parents tried their own version of that meeting, this time without lawyers present. They called from the tiny apartment they had downgraded to after selling their house. The background was cluttered and dim, a far cry from the glossy space they used to brag about. My mom was still angry, but underneath I could hear something like fear. Your brother is struggling, Winter, she said. We are all struggling. We cannot go to the same church anymore without people whispering. Dad's old golf buddies do not return calls. This followed us. I almost reminded her that they were the ones who tied their image to his fake success, that they had chosen the pedestal he fell from. Instead, I said quietly that I was sorry they were hurting and that I hoped they would figure out how to rebuild without using me as the foundation next time. My dad asked if there was any way we could all sit down, maybe film some kind of joint statement, clear the air, help Logan rebuild his brand while showing we are still united as a family. He framed it like a healing thing, but I heard the old pattern underneath. Turn our pain into content. Turn my boundaries into a storyline. I told him no. No cameras, no statements, no public narrative where I am the villain who forgave too late or the saint who forgave too early. If there is any rebuilding, it happens off screen. He did not like that answer. My mom accused me of clinging to resentment, of choosing pride over family. Maybe from the outside, it did look like pride. From the inside, it felt like survival. Some people only realize they have gone too far when the judge signs the papers and the sponsors walk away. Some only cry when the cameras are off and the handcuffs stay on someone else's belt, but do not feel far anymore. When those same people finally come to you, asking for one more chance, one more compromise, one more time you put their comfort above your safety, do you open the door again, or do you finally, fully choose your own peace? A few months later, my condo finally felt like mine again. The neon reflections were gone from the windows at night. The walls were repainted, the hardwood floors refinished, the dents and scratches erased. I upgraded my security system, not because I was afraid of strangers, but because I had learned the hard way that sometimes the real threat comes with a spare key and your last name. My days went back to something that looked normal on the outside. I worked my cybersecurity job, grabbed tacos with Nina after late releases, went to yoga on weekends. But inside, things were not the same, and honestly, that was the point. One night, Nina and I were on my couch, the new one that did not smell like spilled energy drinks. I told her I had written everything down, not for a lawyer this time, but as a long anonymous post on a forum where people share stories about toxic families and financial abuse. I changed the names and the city, but the bones were the same. My brother taking my condo, my parents defending him, me finally choosing myself, and the legal mess that followed. I hit post and closed my laptop, not expecting much. A few days later, I checked back. There were hundreds of comments. People saying things like, I thought I was the only one, or my parents did this with my credit when I was 18, or I needed to hear that it is okay to say no even to family. Nobody knew it was me, but they knew the feeling. Somehow, that was enough. I did not respond to Logan's occasional texts. I did not block him, but I kept my answers short when I replied at all. I hoped, privately, that he really was changing, that the guy selling cameras in a strip mall would learn something the penthouse persona never could. As for my parents, our calls were less frequent and more honest in a strange way. When my mom tried to slip back into old guilt tricks, I did not fight or explain. I simply ended the call and picked it up again another day on my terms. I stopped auditioning for the role of good daughter in a play that had never been written for me. Sitting on my balcony one quiet morning, coffee warm in my hands, I looked out at the Austin skyline and realized something simple and heavy. Family is not a free pass to your life. Sharing blood does not automatically give anyone rights to your home, your money, your future, or your sanity. Love without respect is just control dressed up in prettier words. People online love to say family is everything, but they never finish the sentence. Family is everything when they act like family. When they do not, you are allowed to step back. You are allowed to draw a line. You are allowed to say, this is mine and you cannot have it, even if they do not understand. I am not here to tell you that cutting people off is easy, or that going to court against your own brother will not keep you up at night. It will. I still have moments where I miss the idea of us I carried in my head. But every time I unlock my door and step into a home that is peaceful and truly mine, I remember why I did it. Boundaries are not a betrayal. Sometimes they are the only way to protect the part of you that still believes you deserve better. And if you ever find yourself standing in your own doorway, being told to move out of the life you built, I hope you remember this. You are not selfish for saying no. You are not cruel for choosing your safety over someone else's comfort. You are allowed to keep what you worked for and to walk away from people who treat your trust like free content. If you had to choose between keeping your family... My name is Victoria Hart. I'm 20 years old, and the night my phone lit up, my entire life was sold in 3 text messages. The first one popped up while I was finishing an assignment in the campus library. I sold your bed, laptop, desk, everything in your room, to support your cousin. For a second I thought it was a sick joke. Then another text came, calmly explaining, she needs the money to raise her child. Family comes first. My hands started shaking as I stared at the screen. My laptop. The one I'd worked double shifts to pay for. My bed. My desk. The shelves I'd built with my own hands. My entire room, wiped out with a few taps of my mother's thumbs. I typed so fast my fingers hurt. What am I supposed to sleep on when I come home? Where am I supposed to study? Her response was ice cold. If you don't like it, go live in the storage room. From now on, this place belongs to your cousin. My ears rang. I swallowed hard and typed one last message. At least tell me you didn't touch the watch Grandpa left me. I stared at the typing bubbles, praying. It was sold for $300, she replied. No apology, no hesitation. Something inside me snapped. I grabbed my car keys, walked straight past my classmates, and headed for the parking lot. I didn't even feel the cold as I drove. There was only one person who had ever protected me from my mother's family-first excuses, and I was going to him now. 2 hours later, as I sat in my grandfather's driveway, my phone exploded with calls and messages from my mom. What happened? What did you say to him? Before I tell you what my grandfather did, and how one conversation turned my entire family upside down, Tell me in the comments what time it is for you right now and where you're watching from. I really want to see how far this story about family, betrayal, and karma can travel. By the time I killed the engine in front of my grandfather's house, my cheeks were stiff from dried tears I couldn't even remember shedding. The porch light was on, casting a warm square of yellow on the front steps, the only place that had ever felt truly safe. I sat there for a few seconds, gripping the steering wheel, replaying those messages in my head like a broken record. I sold your bed. Go live in the storage room. The watch was sold for $300. 3 sentences that told me exactly how much my mother thought I was worth. I forced myself to move. I climbed the steps and knocked twice. The door opened almost immediately, as if he'd been waiting behind it. "Tori?" he said, using the nickname only he used. Deep lines furrowed his forehead when he saw my face. "What's wrong?" That one question broke whatever composure I had left. I pushed past him into the hallway, words tumbling out of me before he even had time to close the door. "She sold my things. All of it. My bed, my laptop, my desk. Everything. And the watch. The watch you left me. She sold that too." He didn't interrupt. He just guided me into the living room, sat me on the couch, and let me pour it all out. I told him about the texts, about the way my mother always said, "family first," when she meant "your cousin first," about the years of being the backup child, the responsible one, the one who could be sacrificed just this once, over and over again. As I spoke, my mind kept branching out into flickering, vicious little daydreams. In one, I pictured myself marching into my old room with a camera, filming the emptiness, posting the whole thing online. My mom sold my life for $300. In another, I imagined suing her, dragging her into court in front of a judge who would finally say the words I'd been dying to hear. "You were wrong." A third version was quieter but darker. Packing my car with whatever scraps I had left, vanishing without a word, and letting her discover what it felt like to be abandoned. It was like a twisted mind map in my head, arrows pointing to revenge, escape, exposure. But I didn't know which one to choose. She said I could live in the storage room like some leftover box. I finished, my voice cracking. "And she didn't even ask before selling your watch." My grandfather's eyes hardened in a way I'd rarely seen. "She sold the watch?" he repeated slowly. I nodded, a fresh wave of shame washing over me, as if I'd failed him by not protecting it. I thought it was the one thing she wouldn't touch." He leaned back in his chair, jaw clenched. "I gave that watch to you," he said quietly, more to himself than to me, "not to her. She had no right." A heavy silence settled between us. Then he asked a question that sliced through my self-pity like a knife. "Tori, why do you think she chose your things instead of her own?" I stared at him, stunned. "Because she doesn't care about me?" I answered automatically. He shook his head. "She cares. Just not the way she should. She chose your things because you're the one she expects to survive it. She thinks you're strong enough to lose everything and still be fine, so you're always the sacrifice." The word sacrificed felt like a stone dropped into my chest. Sacrificed for her cousin's rent, her cousin's baby formula, her cousin's mistakes. "That's not strength," I whispered. "That's being disposable." His gaze sharpened. "Exactly. And that's what needs to change." He stood slowly and walked to a small cabinet against the wall, the one with the locking drawer. I'd grown up knowing it held important papers, but I'd never seen inside. He took out a folder thick with documents and set it on the coffee table. "Your mother has been living in my house and living off my money for years," he said, opening it. I told myself I was helping her get back on her feet, but she never stopped leaning. He flipped through the pages. Bank statements, transfers, checks. My mother's name was everywhere. I didn't want to drag you into this, he continued, but selling that watch crossed a line I can't ignore. My throat went dry. What are you saying? He looked me straight in the eyes. I'm saying you're not the one who should be sleeping in a storage room, and I'm done letting your mother treat you like collateral. So we're going to do this differently. He pulled out a second envelope and slid it toward me. Inside was a copy of his will and the deed to the house, with a sticky note in his handwriting. To be updated. Tomorrow, he said, you and I are going to my lawyer. I want everything properly documented. In the meantime, we'll confront her together. You're not walking into that house alone. My heart pounded. She's going to lose it, I whispered. She always says I'm ungrateful when I bring anything up. Then let her scream, he replied calmly. She's been screaming over your life long enough. This time, we're going to speak with facts. He paused. But I need you to decide something tonight. Do you want to fix the relationship, or do you want to protect yourself even if it means losing it? That question hung in the air like a weight. I'd never allowed myself to think it out loud, that protecting myself might mean stepping away from my own mother. Can it be both? I asked quietly. We can try, he said. But from now on, we start with protecting you. As he spoke, my phone buzzed on the table. Another message from my mom. Why aren't you answering? Your cousin is crying. You're making everything harder. I stared at it, then turned the screen face down. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel obligated to reply. If you were in my place, sitting there with proof that your own mother treated you like a piggy bank, what would you do first? Confront her? Expose her? Or walk away? The next afternoon, we pulled into the driveway of the house I was supposed to call home, though it had started to feel more like a storage unit for everyone else's needs. My grandfather cut the engine and looked at me. Remember, he said, you don't have to raise your voice to be strong. Let the facts do that for you. My stomach twisted, but I nodded. We walked up to the front door together. This time, I wasn't the kid trailing behind. I was the one with a folder of screenshots and a witness who actually believed me. When the door swung open, my mother was already there, jaw tight, eyes blazing. She must have been watching from the window. So you ran to Daddy and tattled? She snapped, ignoring my grandfather completely. Unbelievable, Victoria. The old me would have flinched at that tone. Now I just stepped aside so my grandfather could walk in first. Jane, he said, his voice cold in a way I'd never heard him use with his own daughter. We need to talk about the things you sold that did not belong to you. She rolled her eyes. Oh, here we go. You're going to take her side now? You know how hard it's been for Savannah. She has a baby. Victoria is an adult. She can replace a bed. I pulled my phone out, my hands surprisingly steady. Can I replace this? I asked, tapping the screen to show her own messages. The list of items, the storage room comment, the line about the watch. She glanced at the phone, then away, like it burned her. You're being dramatic, she said. I told you I'd help you get another laptop when things calm down. You're making this a bigger deal than it is. My grandfather stepped closer. She's not, he said sharply. That watch was not yours to touch. I gave it to her. Selling it was theft, Jane. The word hung in the air like a slap. Theft. For a split second, something flickered in my mother's eyes. Not guilt, but fear. Don't you dare accuse me of that, she hissed. It was in my house. I made a decision for my family. That's what mothers do. Mothers protect their children, my grandfather countered. They don't empty their rooms and call it support, when what they mean is control. A small sound came from the hallway. My cousin appeared. The baby balanced awkwardly on her hip. She looked exhausted, dark circles bruising the skin beneath her eyes. Can we not fight in front of the baby? She murmured, shifting her weight. My mother rounded on her too. See what you've done? She demanded. Now your grandfather thinks I'm some kind of criminal. Because she couldn't just be grateful. I stared at Savannah, watching the confusion and guilt war on her face. It hit me that she had probably only heard my mother's version. I made sacrifices for you. Your cousin is being selfish. Did you know she sold my things? I asked quietly. Specifically my watch? Savannah looked at me, then down at the baby. She said you didn't mind helping, she admitted. She told me you said it was just stuff. My laugh came out harsh and humorless. Did she tell you I was supposed to sleep in a storage room when I came home? Silence. My grandfather pulled a folded paper from his jacket pocket and placed it on the coffee table. I spoke to my lawyer this morning, he said. We went over everything I've paid for. This house, your utilities, the loans you never repaid. I've been trying to give you a chance. But selling that watch crossed a legal line, too. My mother's face paled. You wouldn't, she whispered. You're not going to... What? Call the police? Sue your own daughter? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked at me. Do you want me to? The room spun for a second. He was giving me the choice. The part of me that had been screaming for justice wanted to say yes, absolutely. Make her feel what it's like to be powerless. Another part saw my cousin clutching her baby tighter, like the room itself was unsafe. I don't want her in jail, I said finally, my voice rough. I want her to stop treating my life like a savings account she can cash out whenever she wants. My grandfather nodded, then turned back to my mother. Here's what will happen, he said slowly. You will repay the value of the watch and the items you sold. You will stop using my money without my permission. And starting next month, this house will no longer be in your name. You'll pay rent or you'll move. I'm done funding your bad decisions. The words hit harder than any shout. My mother stared at him as if he'd slapped her. You can't do that, she whispered. This is my home. No, he replied softly. It's mine. And you've forgotten that. For the first time, she didn't have a quick comeback. Her jaw worked soundlessly. Then she turned on me, eyes bright with fury and something like betrayal. Look what you've done, she spat. You've turned him against me. Are you happy now? You and your stupid watch? Heat rose in my chest, but I didn't look away. You did this, I said. I just finally stopped pretending it was okay. Behind her, Savannah shifted the baby and took a tiny step closer to me, almost imperceptibly. It was small, but I noticed. My mother noticed too, and her expression darkened. Fine, she snapped. If this is how it's going to be, don't come crying to me when your college bills pile up. I'm done helping you. You were never helping me, I replied quietly. You were managing me. The air crackled. My grandfather cleared his throat. This conversation isn't over, he said. Tomorrow we're all going to sit down with my lawyer, so there are no misunderstandings about money or property. My mother blanched. I'm not going, she said. You can't force me. He simply shrugged. You don't have to, he said. But the paperwork will move forward with or without you. The room felt smaller, the walls pushing in. My mother grabbed her keys, muttering something about needing air, and stormed out, the door slamming so hard the baby flinched and started crying. As Savannah rocked the baby, tears spilling silently down her cheeks, she looked at me like she was seeing me for the first time. I didn't know, she whispered, about any of this. You weren't supposed to, I said. That's how she keeps control. By telling each of us only the part that makes her look like the hero. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A new message. From my mother this time, despite her dramatic exit. If you follow through with this, don't ever call me Mom again. I stared at the words, a chill settling over me. Tomorrow, everything would be written down in ink. who owned what, who owed what, and where I stood in this family. But if you knew that signing those papers might permanently change your relationship with your own mother, would you still go to that meeting? The law office was quieter than I expected. No dramatic banging of gavels, no shouting, just the steady hum of a printer and the scratch of pens against paper. Still, my heart pounded like we were walking into a courtroom. My grandfather, his lawyer, and I sat at one side of the polished table. The empty chair across from us felt like a threat. "She might not come," I whispered. "She'll think if she ignores it, it'll go away." The lawyer smiled politely, shuffling documents. "The paperwork doesn't depend on her attendance," he said, "but it's better for everyone if she's here to hear it." 5 minutes before the appointment time, the door opened. My mother walked in, sunglasses on despite being indoors, like she needed a layer between herself and the consequences. She didn't look at me when she sat down. "Let's get this over with," she said. "I have a baby to help take care of." The lawyer introduced himself and began outlining what my grandfather had already explained to me: the transfer of certain accounts into a trust with my name on it, the adjustment of his will, and the new rental agreement for the house my mother lived in. "This is insane," my mother interrupted, her voice rising. "You're giving my daughter more control than your own child." My grandfather didn't flinch. "I'm giving responsibility to the person who has shown she can handle it," he replied. "You've had years to prove the same." The lawyer slid a document toward her. "This outlines the repayment plan for the value of the items sold that were not legally yours," he said, "including the watch." She picked up the paper, skimmed it, then laughed, a sharp, humorless sound. "You want me to pay this back? With what money? Do you think I'm hiding some secret stash? I sold her things because we were desperate." "You were desperate," I said quietly. "You never asked me what I was willing to give. You just took." Her head snapped toward me. For the first time since she'd walked in, she really looked at me. Not as the ungrateful daughter she complained about to her friends, but as someone sitting across from her at a legal table. Someone with a say. Her bravado began to crack. "I'm your mother," she said, voice shaking. "I did what I had to do." "No," I replied, my own voice trembling now. "You did what was easiest for you. You chose the child who couldn't say no yet, and the child you assumed would never say no." I leaned forward slightly. "You were wrong about one of them." The lawyer cleared his throat softly and continued, walking us through each clause. With every paragraph, the limitations on her access to my grandfather's accounts, the rental agreement, the written acknowledgement that the watch and certain items were mine, not hers. I watched my mother shrink a little more in her chair. At some point, the sunglasses came off, and I saw the raw panic in her eyes. "Dad," she whispered, turning to my grandfather, "please don't do this. You're humiliating me." He sighed, and for a moment he didn't look like the unshakable man who had marched into this office. He looked like a tired father who had finally run out of excuses. "Jane," he said softly, "you did this when you chose to humiliate your own daughter by stripping her room bare without a word. You cared more about appearing generous to one child than being fair to both." Her hands began to shake. "You don't understand," she said, her voice cracking. "You don't know what it's like to wake up every day and feel like you're failing one child or the other. Savannah calls crying because she can't pay rent, and Victoria sends pictures of her grades and scholarships, and She stopped, choking on her words. "I picked the one who needed me more." "No," I said softly. "You picked the one who made you feel needed. There's a difference." She flinched like I'd slapped her. Tears spilled over, and she pressed her fingers against her eyelids as if she could push them back in. "I never meant to hurt you," she whispered. I didn't want to watch Savannah lose everything the way I did when I was her age." My grandfather's expression shifted, some old memory passing behind his eyes. "And so you repeated it," he said quietly. You lost everything back then because you had no one to protect you. Now you're making your own daughter lose everything even though she has people willing to protect her. That's not breaking the cycle, Jane. That's repainting it. She stared at the table, shoulders shaking. For a moment, I almost forgot why we were there. She looked small, fragile, like the mom who used to braid my hair in the mornings and leave notes in my lunchbox. But then I remembered the texts, the storage room, the watch. The way she'd turned my pain into a performance about her sacrifices. My sympathy hardened into something sharper, not cruelty, but clarity. This isn't about punishing you, I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. It's about making sure it doesn't happen again. To me, or to anyone else you decide is strong enough to lose everything. The lawyer slid a pen across the table. Signing this doesn't make you a bad mother, he said gently. It acknowledges past mistakes and sets boundaries so they aren't repeated. My mother stared at the pen like it was a snake. If I sign this, she whispered, I lose control of everything. I shook my head. No, I said. You lose control of me. There's a difference. The room went silent. After what felt like hours, she picked up the pen with trembling fingers and signed. One signature on a repayment agreement, another on the rental contract, another on a statement acknowledging the watch had been wrongfully sold and that if the buyer could be located, she'd be responsible for buying it back or paying its appraised value into the trust in my name. With each stroke of ink, she looked a little more hollow, like someone who had built her identity on being the provider and was suddenly in free fall. When it was over, she pushed the papers away and stared at me. Are you happy now? She asked, her voice hoarse. You've turned your own mother into the villain in front of everyone. I swallowed the lump in my throat. You did that when you chose to treat me like property, I said. I'm just making sure it's written down so I don't forget what it cost me to finally say no. As we left the office, my grandfather squeezed my shoulder. You did well, he murmured. You stayed calm. I don't feel calm, I admitted. I feel like I just burned a bridge, and I'm standing on the ashes. He nodded. Sometimes that's what it takes to build a road instead. But as we walked to the car, I couldn't help glancing back at the building, wondering, after you put boundaries on paper, is there any way to go back to being family again? Or does the ink become the line you can never cross? The fallout started quietly. There was no dramatic explosion, no ambulance, no police cars. Just a slow unraveling of the story my mother had told everyone about who we were. Within a week, word got around our extended family that my grandfather had put his own daughter on a lease and put money in his granddaughter's name instead. Of course, the version they heard depended on who told it. My mother said my grandfather had chosen me over her, that I had manipulated him with tears and exaggerations. But my grandfather, for once, didn't stay silent. When relatives called to ask what was going on, he calmly explained the facts, what had been sold, whose name was on which account, and exactly how much money had flowed out over the years. For the first time in my life, the question wasn't, why is Victoria being difficult? It was, why didn't anyone stop this earlier? At home, the atmosphere was different. My mother read every notice from the bank and every email from the rental office with tight lips and shaking hands. For the first month, she managed the new rent. The second month, she started snapping at small things, a dirty dish, a late bill, a crying baby. By the third month, she was sitting at the kitchen table at midnight, staring at a pile of envelopes as if they were written in another language. I didn't live there anymore. After the meeting at the lawyer's office, my grandfather offered me the guest room at his place for as long as you need it, and for once I said yes, instead of insisting I could handle it alone. Still, I came by often, partly to check on my cousin, partly to make sure my mother understood that boundaries didn't mean abandonment. One evening, when I walked in, I found a stranger sitting at the table with them, a woman in her 40s with gentle eyes and a stack of folders. "This is Mara," my grandfather explained. "She's a family financial counselor. I asked her to come by." My mother's eyes flashed. "He thinks I need someone to explain money to me," she said bitterly, gesturing at the papers. Apparently, having a daughter who studies business management wasn't enough. Mara smiled calmly. "I'm not here to judge you," she said. "I'm here to help you figure out how to live within your means, now that certain support has changed." She glanced at me. "And to make sure everyone in this house understands what fair looks like." Over the next hour, we went through numbers. Real numbers, not the vague, "we'll figure it out" my mother liked to use. Rent, utilities, food, baby supplies, debts. My mother bristled at every suggestion that involved cutting back. "I can't just stop helping Savannah," she protested. "She has a baby." "No one is asking you to stop helping," Mara replied gently. "We're asking you to stop helping in ways that require sacrificing someone else's stability without their consent." She turned to me. "Do you feel like your needs have been considered equally in this household?" The question was simple, but it landed like a punch. I looked at my mother, who refused to meet my eyes. "No," I said finally. "I feel like my needs were always negotiable, and my cousins were sacred." For a moment, the only sound in the room was the baby's soft breathing from the bassinet. My mother's face crumpled. "You have no idea how guilty I've felt every time I couldn't help her," she whispered. "Watching her struggle reminds me of being 19 and alone with you, and no one answering their phone when I called." My chest tightened. I'd heard pieces of that story my whole life. The nights she'd gone hungry, the jobs she'd lost, the people who'd turned their backs. But this was the first time she'd connected it directly to what she'd done to me. "So you decided to become the person who always answered her phone," I said quietly. "You just forgot that sometimes." She called it my expense. Mara nodded slowly. "That's a common pattern," she said. "We overcorrect for the pain we went through and end up recreating it in a different direction." She turned to my mother. "But there's another way to show up for your children, one that doesn't require one of them living in poverty of love or resources so the other doesn't." We spent the rest of the session building a practical plan, dividing expenses, setting limits, creating a realistic budget that didn't assume my grandfather's money was an endless backup. For every line we adjusted, my mother argued, then deflated, then scribbled a reluctant initial. It wasn't dramatic, but it was real. Consequences had finally arrived, not as a screaming match, but as line items on a spreadsheet that didn't lie. After Mara left, my mother sat quietly for a long time. Finally, she spoke without looking at me. "Do you really think I saw you as disposable?" she asked, her voice barely audible. The old me would have rushed to reassure her. "Of course not, Mom. I know you love me." But love without accountability had gotten us exactly here. "I think you saw me as someone who would always forgive you," I said honestly. "Someone who would always understand and never leave." She swallowed hard. "And now?" "Now," I said, choosing my words carefully, "I still love you, but I won't let you hurt me for the sake of feeling like a good mother to someone else." She flinched, but she didn't argue. That night, as I drove back to my grandfather's house, it hit me that revenge, in my case, didn't look like destroying her life. It looked like forcing her to live within the limits she'd ignored for years. Financial limits, emotional limits, parental limits. It looked like saying no and not backing down when she cried. But I still wondered, can someone who only learned love through sacrifice ever learn to love without having a victim? Months passed. If you'd walked into my life from the outside, you might have thought everything had settled. I lived with my grandfather, commuted to campus, worked part-time at a local design studio, and came home to someone who never once asked me to give up my future for anyone else's emergency. But under the surface, the shift was much bigger. With the little stability I suddenly had, a consistent place to sleep, a desk that wouldn't be sold out from under me, a laptop I'd bought with my own paycheck, my brain finally had room for something other than survival. In one of my classes, a professor assigned a project about financial abuse within families. The topic made my stomach twist, but it also lit something up in me. For the first time, I had language for what I'd grown up calling just helping out. I poured my own story into the project, anonymizing the details. A parent who used family first as a weapon, a grandparent who had silently funded years of bad decisions, a child whose belongings were treated as assets instead of memories. At the last minute, I recorded a voiceover and uploaded the project as an unlisted video, just so my professor could view it easily. Then I forgot about it. Until one night, a notification popped up on my phone. Your video has been shared 500 times. Somehow, my private project had leaked. Someone had screen recorded it and posted it on a platform I'd barely used. By the end of the week, it had hundreds of thousands of views. Comments flooded in. This is literally my mom. I thought I was crazy for feeling used by my own family. Please talk more about this. People weren't debating whether I was ungrateful. They were thanking me for naming something they'd been too scared to say out loud. I panicked at first. What if my mother saw it and recognized herself? But as I scrolled through the comments, that fear began to transform into something else. A sense of justice that didn't require screaming matches or legal threats. My story wasn't just about me anymore. It had become a mirror for thousands of people. The next time I visited my mother's house, I noticed the change immediately. The fridge had fewer brand name items. The living room TV, the one she'd insisted she needed to relax, was gone, replaced by a smaller, older one pulled out of the garage. The fancy coffee subscription she loved had clearly been canceled. Consequences again, this time not enforced by my grandfather, but by math. You look good, she said stiffly when I walked in, taking in my work clothes and the new bag I'd budgeted for with my own money. Busy. I am, I replied. School, work, a little bit of content. She frowned. What kind of content? I hesitated, then decided I was done hiding. I posted a video for one of my classes, I said, about financial abuse in families. It kind of blew up. Her face went still. Is it about me? She asked, voice low. It's about a pattern, I said carefully. About parents who use their kids' things and futures as emergency funds. So yes, she snapped, it's about me. You've told the whole world I'm a monster. My chest tightened, but I forced myself to stay calm. I never used your name, I said. I changed details. But if you see yourself in it, maybe that says something you don't want to admit. She turned away, her shoulders stiff. Do you know what people will think of me if they find out? Do you know what people thought of me? I countered. When they saw me working extra shifts while my stay-at-home mom always had cash for my cousin's emergencies but not for my textbooks? Silence. Finally, she sank into a chair, looking more tired than I'd ever seen her. Everyone in the family is talking about that video, she muttered. They don't know it's you, but they're piecing things together. Suddenly, everyone's asking me if I've been fair to you. I used to be the one who sacrificed everything for family. Now they're looking at me like I'm selfish. The irony would have been funny if it hadn't hurt so much. For years, she'd crafted a story where she was the noble martyr, the one holding our chaotic little world together. Now people were asking who had paid the price for that narrative. I didn't make you selfish, I said quietly. I just stopped hiding the cost. She pressed her hands to her face. You don't understand what reputation means in a family like ours, she whispered. I worked so hard to look like a good mother. Maybe, I said. You should have worked harder on being one. The words hung in the air like smoke. Harsh, but true. For the first time, she didn't argue. She just sat there, breathing slowly, like someone whose reflection had suddenly changed in a mirror she couldn't smash. That night, back at my grandfather's house, I sent him the link to the video. He watched it in silence, then turned to me with tears in his eyes. I'm sorry, he said, for not seeing it sooner, for letting her do so much damage before I stepped in. You're the reason I didn't break, I replied. You and that watch, even if it's gone. He smiled sadly. The watch was just metal and gears, he said. The real inheritance is this. You learned early that your value isn't measured in the things people take from you. As the video continued to spread, people started messaging me, asking for advice, sharing their own stories. I wasn't a therapist, I wasn't a lawyer, but I knew how it felt to be told you were ungrateful for wanting basic respect. So I started answering, one message at a time. Slowly, a community grew around the idea that family doesn't excuse exploitation. It makes it worse. Revenge, I realized, didn't have to be about watching my mother suffer. It could be about making sure what happened to me would be harder for other parents to hide. But I also knew every view of that video, every comment, was another tiny crack in the image my mother had built, and cracks, given enough time, changed the structure underneath. A year after the text that started it all, I walked up the same front steps I'd once climbed as a scared 18-year-old, then as a furious 20-year-old, then as a cautious visitor trying to decide whether hope was still an option. This time, there was a moving truck in the driveway, boxes stacked by the door. My mother stood on the porch, arms crossed, watching two men carry out the last pieces of furniture. The house behind her looked strangely bare, like a stage after the show was over. So it's really happening, I said softly. She didn't jump. She must have heard my car. Rent went up again, she said, her voice flat. Your grandfather warned me it would. I thought I could handle it. I couldn't. Savannah finally found a place closer to her job, so she's moving out too. She let out a bitter little laugh. Guess the storage room is all that's left now. There was no triumph in me, no gloating, just a heavy ache. Where will you go? I asked. A small apartment across town, she replied. Cheaper. No backyard. No, this place belongs to your cousin Speeches. She glanced at me. He's putting the house into your trust fully, you know. I nodded. He told me. You must be thrilled, she said, but there wasn't much venom in it. Just exhaustion. It's not about the house, I said. It's about not watching you burn through everything he gave you and expecting everyone else to pay the smoke damage. She shook her head slowly. You talk like you're 40, she muttered. I had to be, I answered. You skipped that part. We sat on the steps together, the way we used to when I was a kid and she was still figuring things out. For a few minutes, we just watched the movers work. Finally, she spoke. I watched some of your videos, she said. My heart lurched. You did? I was mad at first, she admitted. I kept thinking, how could she put our business out there? But then I saw the comments. All those people thanking you, saying they finally had words for what happened to them. She swallowed. Do you know how many of them sounded exactly like you? I nodded. I read them too. It's a lot. I kept trying to tell myself I wasn't like those parents, she continued, that I had good reasons, that I was just trying to survive. But the more I listened, the more I realized they all had good reasons too, and their kids were still hurt. She looked down at her hands. I wanted to be the mother I didn't have. I ended up being the mother I swore I'd never become. The admission didn't erase the years of damage, but it was more honest than anything I'd heard from her in a long time. Do you want to know the part that hurt the most? I asked. She nodded, eyes wary. It wasn't losing my bed or my laptop, I said. It wasn't even the watch. It was realizing that if I hadn't said anything to Grandpa, you never would have thought you did anything wrong. You would have gone on believing you were the hero of the story. She winced, but she didn't look away. You're right, she said quietly. I told myself you were strong, that you'd understand, that you'd forgive me like you always had. I used your strength as permission to be weak where it mattered most. We sat with that for a while. The movers closed the truck, waved, and drove off, leaving the house and its future in a strange silence. So what now? She asked finally. Do I just become one of those tragic comments under your videos?